After 5, we ran through every milestone fast. House, marriage, kids, like we were racing a clock only she could hear. I wanted to wait a year, maybe 2, just some breathing room before we became parents. Sandy sat at our kitchen table one night, tearing a napkin into pieces, and told me she didn't have that kind of time. Worried about her biological clock. Didn't want to be an older mom. I gave in. First child came. Not long after, a second was on the way. Overnight, our world became diapers, bottles, and kids' shows on a loop. Money was tight, we were tired. But the bills got paid, the kids were fed, and I told myself this was just the season of life we were in. When our youngest finally started sleeping through the night, I thought we'd turned a corner. Instead, that's when Sandy started pulling away. Most nights were the same. 2 people at opposite ends of the couch, phones in hand, TV on in the background. We were in the same room. We weren't together. I asked one night, "You good?" She barely looked up, just tired. I let it go. But then she started coming home late. And when she did come home, something about her was different. Hair done, cheeks flushed, humming while she folded towels like she was carrying a song she didn't want to let go of. I'd reach over, try to connect. Instantly, she'd pull back. I'm exhausted. After a few weeks of that pattern, I said, "You're out a lot lately." She didn't flinch. Stop being paranoid. I'm too tired for cheating, if that's what you're thinking. Not shocked, not offended, just flat, like she was shutting a door she'd already decided to close. Then came the afternoon that changed everything. I was home with our youngest crayons on the coffee table, juice stains on the rug. He was coloring, pressing down so hard the paper wrinkled. Out of nowhere, he pointed at the TV. "Mommy's friend sits there," he said, then tapped the screen. "Football." I kept my voice steady. "What's your friend's name, buddy?" He looked up, sensed something in my face, and went quiet. "I don't know," he said. Back to coloring. I stared at that couch and those fingerprints on the screen, and the room I'd lived in for years suddenly felt wrong. Kids that age don't create details like that. They report what they see. Whoever this was, he'd been in my house on that couch, watching games with my son right there. I did not order a camera that night. I called a lawyer. That part matters, so I'm going to say it clearly. The instinct was to act, confront her, pull the phone, demand answers. Every nerve in my body was pointed at the front door. But I had 2 kids in that house, and I wasn't going to blow up their lives on instinct. The lawyer I called the next morning told me 3 things. Stay calm. Document the pattern. Don't move until you have something a court can use. He gave me a checklist. The nanny cam was step 3. I set it up 4 days after my son pointed at that couch, a small toy on a shelf facing the front door in the living room. My hands were shaking while I plugged it in. Then I waited. The first week, nothing. Kids, routine, normal. Second week, Sandy came through the front door one afternoon dressed up. Hair done, makeup on. Not quick errand effort, intentional. I kept watching. She walked off screen. The front door opened again. A man walked in without hesitating, closed the door behind him like it was his own. Sandy came back into frame and went straight to him. They hugged, they kissed, relaxed and practiced, right there in my living room. A few seconds later, my son wandered in. The man reached down and patted his head the way you greet a kid you're used to. Then all 3 of them walked out of frame. I sat in my car in a parking lot, phone in my hand, trying to remember how to breathe. I told my boss I was sick. He said I looked it, but I didn't go home. I didn't confront her. I called my lawyer. He said, "Keep watching." So I did. Here's what the next 3 weeks of footage showed. Not one visit. 6 separate afternoons over 23 days. Same man, same routine at the door. My kids in the house for 4 of the 6. One visit lasted over 3 hours. I saved every clip, time-stamped, backed up in 2 places. When my lawyer saw the full file, he went quiet for a moment. Then he said, "She's going to tell the judge this was one mistake, one moment of weakness. Make sure you're in the room when she does." I waited until Sunday night to bring it up. Dinner was done, kids in bed, house quiet. I set my phone on the kitchen table, face up, and hit play on the first clip. We watched together, the man at the door, the hug, the kiss, our son in the corner of the frame. Sandy slid off the couch and onto the floor, back against the cabinet. "It's not what it looks like." "Then tell me what it is." She cycled through everything fast. Confusion, tears, then anger. "You pushed me away. I'm just a roommate to you. I work. I'm up at midnight washing bottles. I didn't invite anyone else into this house. It didn't mean anything. You're really going to destroy this family over one mistake?" I looked at her for a long time before I answered. "One mistake." I picked up my phone, pulled up the second clip, the third. laid the dates out one by one on the table. 6 visits, 23 days, 4 of them with the kids home. Which one was the mistake? The room went completely still. "I'll block him," she said finally, voice cracking. "Right now, I'll block his number." I thought about how small that sounded against what was on that table. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed a bag, and packed enough for a few nights. At the door, she grabbed my wrist. "Please." I thought about my son pointing at the TV, about the lawyer's checklist, about 23 days of footage sitting on a cloud server she didn't know existed. I walked out. For the first time in a long time, I could breathe all the way in. The next morning, I forwarded the full file to my lawyer. Every clip, every timestamp, the bank records showing joint account withdrawals on 3 of the 6 dates. While I got quieter, Sandy got louder. New crowd, bar selfies, videos from nights out. One night, she sent me a clip of herself at some loud bar, arm around a guy I'd never seen, with the caption, "Enjoy your boring life." I saved it, forwarded it to my lawyer, didn't reply. By court day, my file had the nanny cam footage, all 6 visits, the bank records, the screenshots, and the bar content she'd sent me trying to get a reaction. Sandy showed up late, tired-looking hair pulled back, no makeup. Her attorney argued it was a single lapse in judgment, an isolated incident during a difficult period in the marriage. My lawyer set the time-stamped clips on the table in order. I watched the judge's expression move through the pages. When Sandy's attorney finished, the judge looked up and said, "Counsel, your client's own footage indicates 6 separate visits over 23 days. Can you help me understand which of those constitutes the isolated incident?" Sandy stared at the table. Primary custody went to me. Limited visitation for Sandy. Therapy required. Regular testing. No unrelated men around the children during her time. She walked out of that courtroom looking like someone had taken something from her. Her own choices had. The messages after that swung in every direction. "You stole my kids." Then, hours later, "I miss you." Then messages about wanting things back. From the same person who had spent months turning away from me. I answered only about the kids. Pickup times, school events, appointments, nothing else. The moment that actually landed came on a gray Saturday in my driveway. She pulled up in an old hoodie, no makeup. Our son ran to her, then looked back at me and asked, "Is mommy staying this time?" She nearly fell apart right there. After the kids went inside, she stood in the driveway holding her keys. "I messed up," she said. I can't stop hearing him ask where I was. I stared at the gravel. If I looked her in the eye, I'd say something that would poison everything going forward. "Help me make a plan," she said. "Meetings, tests, whatever it takes. I don't want them to grow up without a mother." We laid it out. Support meetings, regular testing, parenting classes, strict rules about who was around the kids. She agreed to all of it. She's missed appointments. There have been rough nights. But she's also shown up more than I expected. And for the kids' sake, that matters. Here's what I know now. The warning signs weren't hidden. The sudden distance, the late nights with no real explanation. The way every concern I raised got called paranoia instead of answered honestly. The camera didn't break my marriage. It documented what was already happening, while I tried to tell myself it was just stress. The difference between reacting and responding cost me nothing and protected everything. I could have walked through that front door the night my son pointed at the couch, demanded answers, and blown the whole thing apart on instinct, and handed Sandy's lawyer a narrative about an unstable, controlling husband. Instead, I called a lawyer, got a checklist, let the footage build. By the time we were in that courtroom, I didn't have a story. I had a file. One mistake doesn't survive 23 days of timestamps. If your instincts are telling you something is wrong, the most useful thing you can do isn't react in the moment. It's stay calm, notice the patterns, and talk quietly to a professional, legal, financial, or personal, before making any large moves, especially when kids are part of the picture. I'm James. I pressed play on a nanny cam and watched the life I thought I had fall apart on a 4-inch screen. But it also gave me exactly what I needed to protect the 2 people who never deserved any of this in the first place.